Okay, we're streaming.
Okay. Oh, Josh.
No, he's saying I can't make it.
Oh, okay. All right. Y'all settled in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Public Safety Committee of March 22nd, 2018. If we could have a roll call, please.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Armstrong? Here. Counselor Kelly?
Here.
Counselor Ensel?
Here.
Chief Lawless?
Here.
Lieutenant Kiroy?
Here.
Lieutenant Ritter?
Here.
Building Inspector McMahon?
Here.
At this time, I'd like to invite any members of the audience to offer public comments on tonight's agenda. These comments would pertain only to the agenda, and there'll be additional... No, there won't. They're just comments on the agenda. If anybody would like to come forward? Seeing none, we'll go on to reports from department representatives and discussion with counselors. First item on the agenda is coordination of the police department with the building inspector regarding code enforcement.
That's mine.
This is something that's been going on for quite some time, if not a couple of years. There's always been the question of what happens after hours with the building inspector's office. That's evening, weekends, holidays, when there's code violations that are reported, and then come Monday through Friday, they no longer exist, whether it be a parked car, a building issue. What can be done, possibly through the police department, over the weekend and evening hours, if anything can be done? We've talked about, prior to your tenure here, about what kind of coordination there could be between the two departments.
So I think we work very well with the building inspector's office. Obviously, we have different roles, different priorities, but we still work under the confines of the city code. There are some limitations, though. To take, for instance, the garbage, rubbish, and refuse chapter of the city code. These are one of the frequent complaints that we receive from citizens, where when belong refuse, accumulation of garbage, things of the sort. It specifically says in that section who can enforce that section of the code. And the police department is not listed there. So aside from asking pretty please with sugar on top, we must defer to the building inspector's office. That aside, other quality of life issues we do take action on. Not so much conditions, that would be more with the building inspector. We certainly make referrals to the building inspector's office, but like the parking complaints, parking on the front yard, when we can issue, we issue. That was the other area where there is some confusion. The areas where that is actually enforceable. I was talking to Lieutenant Kiroy about this, and it's only enforceable in R1, RH, and OLP districts. I sarcastically would ask, does anyone know where that is in the city of Plattsburgh? So
Actually, it was
R2.
Local law that was revised, I think, last year included R2.
Yes.
So R2 is in there too now.
It's pretty much all of the city then?
All of the residential areas.
Okay.
I do know that local law that was revised last year added it to the parking section of the city code, which made it enforceable by the police department.
Okay.
I'm not aware of that actually including the R2 district. I believe that there's.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
Obviously, garbage is one of the bigger things, and we noticed this last year that in most sections of the city code, it adds a peace officer as an enforcing officer. That section it does not. Police are not specifically identified as enforcement officers in the garbage section. So I think we need Dean's help with that.
So that would be, so if say somebody calls in Saturday morning, they're out for a walk, the garbage cans are tipped all over Center City because the garbage gets put out on Friday night for Monday morning pickup. How would that be handled then?
it would probably come to our department, and we don't disregard those things, but aside from a mere request, I mean, we're not gonna intimidate somebody to do something that we can't take enforcement action on, and would ultimately refer to the building inspector's office. If there was some other area of the city code or other area of the penal law that we could enforce, we would certainly enforce that, but specific to chapter 183, we're kind of limited. This would require future discussions, which I think everyone would be open to. I'm speaking on my own self, that, you know, we're not opposed to exploring being added to it, but currently we're kind of limited.
When you say added to it,
Added to the officials that can enforce that chapter of the city code, which would require, obviously, getting involved.
I think it was an oversight, probably.
I would assume it is.
now, the oversight, were we referring to the parking situation
No, the
in
garbage,
R2?
the police were not identified as
Okay.
potential
So I'll
enforcement.
read it for you. It says, provisions of this chapter may be enforced by the building inspector, housing code inspector, municipal code inspector, or superintendent of public works. Only. So unless you're one of those people,
Okay, yeah. All right, so the further discussion will be taking place, is it? And I would also ask Chief Lawless, say you go on a call, whether it's a fire or ambulance call, you see something horribly wrong with wherever you're at in terms of code violation. And I do notice on some of the reports that go to the building inspector that you do make referrals on occasion.
We do. It depends on how egregious the violation we find. If it's an immediate life hazard, then we would actually have Joe contacted at that time, or will somebody from his office have them come to the scene. And I believe we've done that several times. That we've come across something that we just can't walk away from, so we contact his office. Somebody representative will.
Okay, good.
If it's something to a lesser degree, oftentimes Scott will call and say, hey, we've got a follow-up request coming, it'll come, but, you know, just to let you know, this is what it is. Let our planning group take a look at it.
Now, if you saw that inside a dwelling, and then you went to that dwelling, can you go inside? Can you request to do an inspection?
Oh, yeah.
Or you can? All right, I didn't know if you needed,
Well, we can always request.
okay. And then if you're denied?
And then if we're denied, depending on the circumstance, we might have to get a search warrant based on, you know, what we've seen, what the fire chief has seen in the police department.
And are there actually many or any tickets actually issued through your office? Is it?
Yeah, it depends on the year. Sometimes it's 6, 8, 10 a year. Sometimes it's 2, 4. We've issued a couple already this year.
Okay. And with spring being somewhere in the air here, are you getting building permit requests or people?
We haven't quite hit that cycle yet.
Okay. Okay, and also on the agenda is the emergency response training. I believe that's taking place this evening, is that correct?
there's a.
At the school, with the school, at the school district, right?
where they're inviting the public to come and comment, express concerns on school safety in light of the recent events in Florida and other areas of the nation.
Are they going to ask you to do a demonstration, a mock scene?
So Lieutenant Keroy and the youth officer and I, Patrolman Wolf, were invited to participate and offer expertise, listen, hear the concerns, see if we can help.
Okay. Do we actually have an officer assigned to the school district, to the high school? I know we did at
The
one
semantics
time.
of that is, you know, we have a youth officer that has very, you know, good relationships with the city school district, but not dedicated primarily to a specific school.
But not on a security level? It's more of a relationship level, or is the person there
No,
to
I mean,
maintain?
we'll check in at all of the schools, but not a school resource officer.
Okay. And why is that? Was that the district's
No, this is
money, or just?
what budgetarily we could afford and provide.
Okay. Was the school district part of that
You
program?
know, that's way before my time,
Okay.
I'm speculating. But I would imagine they were part of the conversation when it came to that.
And I would imagine that will be part of the conversation this evening.
I believe so.
Okay. And any thoughts, I know, and I talked to you earlier, like the Schenectady Police Department is offering public safety training, just what to do in the event, what you can do to create an awareness if a citizen's caught up in a situation, whether it's at a school, at a hospital, an employment situation, where if you had an active shooter on the scene, what you can do just for yourself.
So I think you're referring to the Citizens Academy or something along the lines of
Right,
that.
it's being open to the public, and they're offering training suggestions, you know, when to leave, when not to leave, when to cover, when not to cover, things like that.
I'm certain Lieutenant Curie and I would be open to seeing if that's something that we could provide, or at least enter in discussions.
Mhm. And I didn't know if the hospital, if large employers would be interested in such a program, and it wouldn't necessarily fall on just your department, that it could be a group effort.
Any sort of awareness is really beneficial when it comes to these things.
Right.
So I would imagine there'd be a lot of people interested in partnering with that.
Okay.
We do partner with CDPH and other area businesses periodically throughout the year,
Mhm.
you know, at their request, and we provide, you know, best practices, suggestions, that type of thing. We recently, not recently, about a year ago, we participated in the Cold Silver Drill at CDPH, where they, you know, it's a tabletop exercise where
Mhm.
they explore, you know, what the response would be from all the area law enforcement, as well as testing their own policy in the event of an active shooter. And we're currently, Lieutenant Ritter and I are currently in the process of organizing a similar training involving the city school district, the fire department, the area law enforcement agency, as well as the Plattsburgh Police Department. For this summer, we're hoping to shoot for this summer.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're going to do a live drill.
Okay. Good, well, we'll consider that for future discussion. Okay. And also one question that's come to me since we spoke, the nuisance control officer, when they take an animal, say a skunk, is there any testing for rabies? How is that?
So, the animal control officer, I don't believe has any requirement to test for rabies for nuisance wildlife. But if, when we come across a situation where an animal is acting strangely, or
Mhm.
being seen during the day, where we have to dispatch that animal,
Mhm.
we are required to turn that over to the Department of Health for testing.
Oh, you are, okay, all right. So if it's a catch and release to the nuisance control officer, it's,
Well, there's really no catch and release with nuisance control officer. They're bound by ag markets law.
Okay.
So nuisance animals, you know, unfortunately have to be dispatched.
okay, but are they ever tested?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
They operate, it's a different, nuisance wildlife is a different
Right.
section than, you know, what we would be dispatched to as police officers. You know, if we were to have to dispatch an animal because of strange behavior, or
Right.
sickness, apparent illness, or injury, we do save those animals for testing. We have a good relationship with the U.S. Department of Ag Markets to test those animals.
So if a trapped animal is brought to you, what is that how it works? Mr.
So
Burgess
if-
catches an animal?
Our animal control officer will trap and
Right.
dispatch animals, and through his permit and through his, you know, the rules he has to follow are disposal. If we are dispatched to an animal, it's not
Mhm.
typically something that's, you know, an animal that's under the porch, we would
Right.
refer that to our animal control officer.
Okay.
An animal that's acting strangely or has been injured or, you know, God forbid, attack a person,
Mhm.
we would dispatch that animal and we would send the animal for testing.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on to budget concerns. I'll ask Chief Wallace, the ambulance, you have an ambulance scheduled, is that correct? For 2018?
Capital for-
It's in the capital budget plan, right, $205,000 item, correct? All right. And I would imagine you're going to pursue that request?
I would like to, our two ambulances that we have now are both currently out for repair. We do not have a reserve for that, and due to the age and conditions, they're starting to deteriorate rapidly.
So that means we have one in service?
One, so.
We do one that's in service. All right. Is that a loss of revenue when they're out of service?
No, it will only be if my frontline ambulance, right now we're only running one ambulance. It would be if I was, had two ambulances.
So with the purchase of a new ambulance, would that mean you'd have two then running?
Hopefully we could get to that, that's a labor management relationship we're going to work on.
Any budget concerns with the building inspector's office?
No, at this point, no.
Any overtime? Yeah, overtime?
I just have a question for you, Joe. I noticed in the paperwork that you sent in, your report with the permit fees and so on that has been collected. I'm just wondering how that stands in comparison to previous years at this time.
Right, so this was submitted for, this was the year-end results for 17.
Okay.
You know, actually, we get up around 100,000 collected fees. Sometimes it's 80, sometimes it's 90, one year it's 120. That was pretty average.
Okay,
I think we're on par for that.
thank you.
Could we have a brief discussion? We've talked before about having an additional code enforcement officer to help you not only with proactive code enforcement, but also with parking enforcement. And I think Dean worked out that we can do parking as a code enforcement issue, which would presumably bring in enough revenue to give you another person. Is this something that there's a will amongst the council to further pursue?
Would this also include
Sidewalks?
monitoring sidewalks during snow events?
Correct.
I thought it is being pursued, is it not? I mean,
We can start hiring right away if you ask me to, but I want to have a little bit of a dialogue and see what Joe feels about that too.
How long would it take for that person to get up to speed?
That's a good question. You know, parking has always been through the police department, so I'm a little uncertain about some of those components. So I'm hesitant to answer
Yeah.
right now. I'd like to talk to the police about it some more.
Would, if you have that discussion and you work out any details with Dean, is this something that you all would like me to then just administer and pursue on a presumably budget neutral basis, or do you want further discussion on that at another hearing?
I think we've pretty much discussed that for quite some time, and I'm not looking for any more discussion. I think we'd have to hammer out the priorities of the position. You know, if you get a snowstorm and a parking issue and a building to be inspected all on the same day, we'd have to figure out who gets what when. But other than that, I'm ready to go. And also, we also have discussed increasing the hours within the department. I don't know if that's up for further discussion. We're talking a 35-hour. I know it goes more than that, but the last of the 35 hours. Something else we might want to discuss. Would this position be created for a 35-hour week?
And what, if you're presuming to move to 40-hour week for that office?
I don't know.
That would require a union discussion, I presume, huh?
So this would need to start at a 35-hour week, this position? Or?
It would be
Currently
less.
under the, absent of CBA modification.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so we'll have further discussion and give you some more feedback then.
And maybe you can offer ideas about how you think that person could be best used as well.
Very good.
I'd advocate for a highly proactive person that's really out kind of on the streets and all that kind of stuff. Because, as you know, we haven't been pushing parking enforcement. I think you all do it on an occasional basis as your resources permit, but we haven't had a parking revenue agenda for a while, so.
Yes.
Would that person require a vehicle?
Again, I think I would want to confer with the police department. I'm not sure, do they typically patrol on foot?
They utilize the vehicle and walking.
Do we have a vehicle available for this person?
Not sure.
Was it Robert Hall that was your last person who is assigned to parking enforcement on?
Robert Vance.
How about a motor scooter? Sorry. But yeah, I mean, they would need to be able to quickly get from place to place, I would think, if they're covering so many things.
So this hire will cost us an additional vehicle. Is that true?
Do you have any
That's
vehicles
true.
to share?
We'd have to look.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think we can answer it right at this
Yeah.
moment.
So,
We can
but
certainly
it's
look
part
into
of
it.
what we need to explore. Also, I'm thinking that, just because later I'll also make some comments about the parking study and the decisions we need to make regarding how the parking study will influence the DRI for Durkee Street and for the Durkee Street lot. But we will, as a council, need to make some decisions regarding parking enforcement that, according to the study, may include the installation of some kiosks and a metered system. So maybe we can, I'll be asking you to look at the parking study and beginning your deliberations about what we should do with regard to that and other matters.
Okay. Any budget concerns from the other departments? Other than a new car.
I'd like a chance to look at it with the Lieutenant Kiroy, and
Okay,
we just haven't had a chance to.
all right, okay. All right. Item 3. Agenda items brought forward from departments to be approved by committee and recommendation to council. Number 1, request for the police department employee to attend crime scene training and crime scene photography training from April 22nd through 27th, 2018, April 30th through May 4th, 2018, May 7th through 11th, 2018, in Albany, New York. The total cost should not exceed $2,842.75 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund. This will complete the evidence lab training for this officer. Questions? Roll call?
Motion first, though?
Oh, motion? Mr. Kelly?
Dowdle first.
Yes. Any discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Moving on, item 4 in the old business. Number 5, any new business?
I have a question.
Yes.
Would any citations issued or notice of violations issued for the last snowstorm be indicated in this report that you submitted? I'm sorry, I didn't look at it closely, but I didn't see any. What, the most recent storm, whether you issued any notice of violation for uncleared sidewalks?
So we don't issue the notice of violation for the sidewalks. We report the.
Oh, that's right.
report
Okay,
those
so
numbers
then
to-
it would
to
be for
Joe's
Joe.
office.
Yeah, those come to our,
Yeah, so do you have any ballpark figures for how things shook out last time?
which storm are we talking?
The most recent one last week? Where was it? When
I
was it?
actually don't have those numbers. Those are
Okay.
coming to.
They're coming in.
Secretary of Station.
There were
Okay.
There were 25 that were sent to us.
Okay, that's a good
And
fact. All right,
30 I
thank
think
you.
35 or 38 or so, the previous one, wasn't it?
35 from the previous one, yes. we
Yeah.
issued citations.
And it'll be interesting to see how many of them are repeat violators.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also any appeals that either, I guess DPW would be the other entity, but any appeals from the building inspectors?
We got some from the first round, yeah.
Okay, and those are being processed and will be referred to the public safety
Yes.
committee? Right, okay. Thank you. Okay, ballpark number?
We got 9 appeals.
9. Thank you.
I have one piece of new business. As part of the discussion last week on cryptocurrency, I'm assembling a group of technical experts to help advise us on some proposed building codes. Our council and Councilor Kelly and Councilor McFarland in this room agreed to be on that committee. the other people on that committee are all technical experts. I think you, Scott, you'd volunteered to be on it, and you had another technical expert from the codes or fire suppression side. We've got some technical experts from the industry side. We're not looking, this is a technical discussion on codes and safety and all that kind of stuff, and we hope to do it probably tomorrow and have people start meeting next week. And as I think you all suggested, that we try to do this as expeditiously as possible. Hopefully we can have some meaningful codes for your consideration within, I don't know, 6 weeks. Might not be unreasonable, but we're going to try the best we can and start assembling people right away.
Any other items of new business?
Oh, and Joe's on that committee too in this room. I forgot to mention. So, Joe.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
All right. Mr. Kelly, second by Councilor Dowdle.
All in favor?
Aye. Roll call.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
Meeting's adjourned.
We've got a few minutes before we begin the work session. If you just want to take a
Grab
few
some
minutes.
candy.
Sounds pretty good, huh?
Ooh. Yeah. Look up. Look up.
We'll have a short executive session too.
So, I'm drinking coffee so I can
Just
stay awake.
indicated that.
So that I can not go to sleep again tonight.
You can drink coffee in the afternoon. Will it keep you up all night?
I think
Well,
as
it
it
did
was
last
before.
night. It did last night.
Yeah.
Other times I've done it, it was an issue.
Yeah, when I drink coffee, I'll be lying in bed at midnight just looking at the ceiling.
You don't anyway?
Candy gets better every year.
Can you tell me I'm getting gray fog?
Another 2 years it'll be gone.
It was pretty good.
You're just a baby.
Especially this time of year.
Allie's gonna be,
All right. I'll just get some home with my brother.
second oldest is how we do
He's a mess.
Those chubby cheeks, look at them with the sharp jeans. I can't, I already
Go
have.
to 6 week.
Maybe we should offer to the crowd. I'm so happy with my thermos. I just bought it. I've been needing a travel cup for so long, and I saw this. And I said, oh my gosh, it's so retro. And
Do you like
I
her?
can just keep it.
Is that an Atlanta?
No, that's a Stanley. It's old school.
We used to sing at church all the time when we went to sing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she was.
Big old
That's right. I also like to.
I think I'm moving the community development office now.
Oh, by the way.
Paul's office.
I should
Because we had a big gathering, had to meet there. Today we got 25 people.
That's right here is
To do that.
one of the co-sponsors of this event tonight at 7 at the Newman Center. It's kind of like a walk for justice or something like that. It's in response to, in response to all those hate posters. I can't get on. I don't know what the official title is.
Hey, Mike.
Direct people doing a great job, stepping up to the plate.
More about that.
I got a call from somebody.
My shot. But I couldn't remember if I was just.
Potential litigation involving.
Last year.
So whenever both of them are out of the house.
That was my first thought.
We go to them.
We go to this one.
So they can get it.
It's almost like
We live out in
for the kids. I imagine it's pretty struggle. Like, objective to it.
kind of like.
If so,
Oh, yeah.
moving up and relay it down, they'll send them a formal
I feel like that's the place in my life I can always.
Ready for the work session?
spots, at least that's what I'm doing.
We'll say that.
I'd like to call this work session to order. This is an opportunity for us to have a little bit of extended discussion on items on the agenda, and I do have the need for an executive session should you approve one a matter of a personnel issue with regard to particular persons and another potential litigation with opioid manufacturers.
So moved.
By Councillor Armstrong, second by Councillor Kelly. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Back to
There's chocolate. Oh, just that. Matt's like. I've never heard that complaint yet. Of course, it's on I haven't gone, you know, like, not as far as
Sometimes come down with that.
I can be chatty, I think she can.
Chatty Sandy. Oh, it's tough.
No.
Energetic passion.
It's a legal issue.
My wife's always got
Oh, man wants to keep you in the center.
spent the last.
Well, yeah, so we will,
Spent a lot of
Show it's over here.
You tell us. Service. Courtesy of the infrastructure that John, did you check that out?
I don't have. Forgot. I go back to that age.
Electronic device. I did, it wasn't there. Where? Where?
Once in a while. Oh, okay. Because I think it's spelling email. Yeah, I
Where do you go? I went out there. I didn't see a list of it. I asked him. All right, thanks. Thanks for all your hard work.
The other one.
Way down to the other room across the street. No, we've got all this 40 stuff.
You know how much it costs?
I've got clothes just like that. Clothes just like that.
45 minutes, that's what I'll be wearing. Not quite so nice, but.
I can't leave the building. I buy new ones, they get destroyed.
What else was telling me?
Where's the word? It was only respond.
Very good description of what separates.
Probably for the hours.
Hour in the morning.
I think that's what happens with that.
I think about it every time I get cheap.
Yeah, so we're gonna do it, Robert and I will do Saturday and Sunday. We'll do it on Sunday. She said, why can't you tell me right now? I'm gonna check. Yeah.
Yeah, one more day.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a girl here on Sunday.
I don't know what to do when I'm done with that.
Yeah.
You want to hear the craziest thing? Getting old is like, getting cold all day. My toes are hurting me. I don't work outside.
Circulation starts to go. I find my hands.
One handful in 10 years. Protein in red meat. That's good for me. I'm This thing's burning. Drop something on it. Really heavy.
He let me put it in Kane's hands. What do you need toes for?
Cutting the grass next to one of my friends.
I talked with the, he said it was so good.
Practice some peanuts in my office. Peanuts, broken shell, hit me right in the eye. It went in my eye. It's on the job. Oh my God, too many stories. I'm sure you've got your share of stories, guys, on the job. Cars driving. It happens. 2 seconds. 1 minute. One for years. Who's in charge of the website for the city? If you're on the edge of it. Brian represent Warren Renner. I don't know. When I mentioned it a meeting a couple weeks ago, they should put the connection to
Didn't do any good.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what Let me see your elevator. Yeah, that's one part of the library. The library is here.
Anything prior to that, we did some walls in the 50s. After we relocate, everything else, we'll come to you. I'll bring the light up to you and Max said, yeah, well, we'll file them on, like the smoke, with the cloud. Well, any employees,
Yeah. I'll mail it to you, because it's quite lengthy, so. Yeah, and I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna keep it, I need to through the market, because I've gone through 2 things again in the last week, making out all these applications and all this other stuff. My husband goes there. Who's paid for today? Yeah, Dick came in. Actually, the computer. No, I mean, on the back, I usually, whenever, if they got the money, they don't have that. Okay, so you have to, first, they have the application yet, so right now people are getting it backwards. Then by the time it takes about 2 weeks. So the market is by the time
It's not my decision.
I was thinking maybe just for someone there. You don't have much of that, I don't have that. So where's the market? Yeah.
Sold us, he came in, just like, I don't know,
I just don't know what about that, because I'm not gonna get this stuff back.
In the other market. And so that's important.
But I don't have it here. I was trying to get it over my phone. Don't you worry, I'll get it. Oh, I was pregnant.
Linda and Chris, they didn't have to.
Was I pregnant?
Started.
It would have been when Bill had it. I was the year I was there. No, in 85.
And I called
Or
Chris.
84, 84. No, it was 85. Yeah. We don't, we've been at the yearbook route. So you were, so yeah, you must have been this week. Yeah. We all were taking right over and I know. Yeah. So I was I think so. Oh. Yeah. 16 years. Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some guy in
What do you do for?
Sure. I really wanted to offer them to you, but I wasn't interested How are you? Are you helping Dad out? Here's your boy. I'll take second sheet goes on.
Yeah, Robert.
So have a backup.
So I just go with yours. Yeah.
They just gonna sit right here. When you make an apple,
Okay,
here you watch. Well, you know. And it's that good sweet. Yeah, if you want. Oh, I think it's part of They're not for me.
I apologize to everybody for the delay. Let's call our meeting. Oops, I'm sorry. First of all, I need to report back from our executive session. We discussed personnel matter to do with two individuals, and a matter of litigation with regard to class action opioid manufacturers and distributors suit in May joint. And no decisions were made in executive session. Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Councilor Armstrong?
Here.
Councilor Kelly?
Here.
Councilor Dowdle?
Here.
Councilor Ensign?
Here.
Councilor McFarland?
Here.
Councilor Frencher?
I've got not much to report except it is springtime. I just love this time of year. Beautiful day today. Didn't quite feel like spring, but appears to be on the way. We've got a very interesting agenda tonight. Hopefully can move some things off the table and seek some resolution on some items. And that said, I do have a proclamation that I'd like to begin with. This proclamation, whereas excellence in education is vital to the success of our city, and in the city of Plattsburgh, we seek to instill each child and adolescent with a good education. Whereas by preparing our students for the responsibilities and opportunities of the future, education develops the intellect through lessons of literacy, math, and science. Whereas the Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, of righteous memory, dedicated his life to the betterment of mankind and tirelessly advocated for a better education for all Americans. Whereas the Rabbi taught that education should not be limited to the acquisition of knowledge and preparation for a career, but also on character building with emphasis on the universal moral and ethical values that are the basis of any peaceful, civilized society. Whereas the United States Congress has established Education Sharing Day USA as an annual national day to commemorate the Rabbi's achievement and lessons and the vision he set forth are relevant to us all today. Therefore, I, Colin L. Reed, Mayor of the City of Plattsburgh, proclaim March 27, 2018 as Education and Sharing Day in the City of Plattsburgh and call upon educators, volunteers, and citizens to reach out to young people and work to create a better, brighter, and more hopeful future for all. In witness thereof, I've attached my seal and cause the seal of Plattsburgh to be affixed this 22nd day of March 2018. And I'd like to present you with this recognition and ask you to speak a few words.
Thank you very much.
Trying to get the exit sign out of the picture.
Please say a few words.
Okay. So, thank you, Mayor, and City Council. As the Jewish people are preparing for the holiday of Passover coming up next Friday night, and a week from tomorrow, it's something interesting I'd like to touch upon, which we're going to read in the biblical story about the Exodus from Egypt. Just after leaving Egypt, Moses gathered the Israelites together and spoke to them. He didn't speak about going into the promised land or about the long trek ahead through the desert as they go towards Israel. Instead, he spoke about the duty of parents to educate their children, and he spoke over and over again this message until his final days. Now, what's this obsession he had with education? Because in order to defend the country, you need a strong army. But to defend a civilization, you need to have good schools. So the great leader, the Rebbe, Rabbi Schneerson, taught that every individual, in fact, every single individual action we do, has an impact on the entire universe. And the Rebbe stressed and focused and emphasized the importance of education and good character, and instilled the hope for a brighter future in the lives of countless American people and also people across the entire globe. Recently, the tragic and horrific events that have taken place in schools and across America, and people are looking for answers. How do we combat this darkness, this hate? So perhaps one of the lessons which the Rebbe has repeatedly taught is that education should not be limited to the pursuit of maths and sciences and getting a good career, which is also important. But what's most important, true education, is about instilling and the awareness in our youth, in the next generation, in our children, about the building of a good character, moral ethics, and ethical values is the bedrock of society. And since the dawn of civilization, these 7 universal laws, known as the 7 Noahide laws, has been the base of a strong society. So next Tuesday, March 27th, is going to be the birthday of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the leader of the Jewish people, a man who has probably impacted the world, the Jewish and also the non-Jewish world, more than any other Jewish leader in the past 1,000 years. And every year, since 1978, the President of the United States every year has signed into law the Rebbe's birthday as Education and Sharing Day USA. And I'm very proud of our city. And thank you to the mayor for recognizing this coming up Tuesday, March 27th, as Education and Sharing Day in Plattsburgh. And it's we're joining together actually with over 100 cities across the United States and over, I believe, 30 states, governors of 30 states, which have also pledged pledged this day as a call for a better education. So I want to thank once again the mayor and the city council for this resolution to instill in our youth, in the young hearts and minds of our children, this message that one act of goodness and kindness can tip the scale and usher and bring this world to a world of peace. So thank you very much, and may the city continue to be a beacon of light and all the blessings, and to be a true united nation, one nation under one God. Thank you, and a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And speaking of the city being a beacon of light, please be reminded that at, I think, 7:15 p.m. at the Newman Center tonight, there will be a march in solidarity to the students and some of their concerns, and to our stance as a city on fighting racism and hate wherever we find it. Let's continue on with the minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on March 15, 2018 are approved and placed on file among the public records in the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councillor Kelly and second by Councillor Dowdall. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending March 21st, 2018 in the amount of $99,943.69 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councillor Armstrong and second by Councillor Dowdall. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. In a moment in our agenda for any reports that you may have, let me begin by asking governance strategy and city operations for an update. Councillor Armstrong on behalf of Councillor Spencer.
As I mentioned earlier, when we were having the public safety committee meeting, the parking study we approved will need to be reviewed. I'm hoping that we can, as a council, study that and have a robust discussion about its merits, what kinds of ideas we foresee we might implement, because they will have a direct impact on our DRI development of Durkee Street. And I'll give you some more details of that through email at the beginning of next week. We also, as Councilor Kretzer had reported, met with representatives of our taxi industry, and we are developing a rate increase structure, and thanks to Clerk Parrott's help and input and the work we did, I think we'll be ready to introduce a resolution to institute such an increase by next week. And I think that's enough.
Well, thank you. City infrastructure, Councilor Renz.
Yes, a meeting tomorrow with members of the infrastructure committee at 9 o'clock to discuss a proposal that's been submitted.
Thank you. Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly.
I've just been thinking about our next meeting, which will occur in April, mid-April, and one of the things I would like to do is to break down our city budget into small little chunks that all of us can look at and understand. I want to do that primarily for Patrick McFarland's benefit. So we'll hit the high points of the budget and as many as we can in a half hour. And I would also like to encourage the public to attend that, because of course they're the people who pay our taxes, pay our bills. So we'll try to get as many members of the public to come to that as we can. And that will also be a kickoff for our 5-year budget plan. As you know, we created our first one in many years last year, and it took us an entire month to do it. I don't anticipate it will take that long this time, but we may need a couple of special hearings of some sort to go over that and make sure that we're satisfied with the next iteration of the 5-year plan.
Thank you. Public Safety, Councilor Dowdle?
We met actually moments ago. Actually, the topic of discussion, excuse me, was coordinating efforts between the building inspector, police department, and also the fire department during weekend hours, evening hours, seeing where enforcement can be implemented and where there could be sharing. We also spoke of an active shooting possibility training program, their conduct with the school district. Understand they're going to be invited this evening. And we also discussed budget concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Armstrong.
I reported last week.
And Municipal Lighting, Councilor McFarland.
We're going to have our first meeting tonight after the council meeting, so I look forward to that. Our first meeting since me coming on board.
Resolved, the reports as listed are hereby order received, and any reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Ensign, seconded by Councilor Armstrong. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Don't believe there's any correspondences or recommendations at this time, so please continue.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending March 23rd, 2018 in the amount of $1,890,216.23 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Kelly and seconded by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. This is an opportunity for any individuals who would like to address the council on issues on the agenda tonight. Please come forward. Please.
Thank you. I'm Dick Crawford with the Plattsburgh Farmers and Crafters Market. I'd just like to clarify a few things that maybe it appears to be putting around or floating around. We are not a closed group of people. We welcome people that will apply. We put 6 new people in last year at the market. We've had 3 applications so far this spring for the market. One has come in yesterday. It did not agree to follow our rules and regulations, but they did apply, but they did not sign the agreement. So we're trying to make it happen. We have guidelines. At our meeting, we discussed, our membership discussed, 100% of the members wanted our guidelines followed by us. And if the board here chooses to ask us not to follow those, then they all basically felt it was a recommendation that the city needs to run the market and not have rules or regulations for anybody. But our board basically body said we need to follow our rules and regulations that we've been having for 30 years, and it's been working fine. I'll take any questions if anybody had them. If not.
Just one brief question. If additional people applied still, would you still be able to consider them, or do you have some sort of maximum?
No. We only have 24 spaces, 34 spaces, I'm sorry, inside the building. We have a problem, we've had a problem all these years controlling the parking space outside of the building. And as I just spoke with the police earlier before, while you guys were out, as long as that person is legally parked in between the lines in the parking lot, they won't tow it. They can, nothing they can do about it. They can try to phone them and get them to come and move the car. But as far as getting it towed, okay.
Thank you.
So, we worked with it for several years. We know that. We no longer call the cops to come move a car because we know they can't by law. Okay?
Well,
Mr. Crawford, thank you so much. And we did have a chance to talk before we convened here as a council. I spoke to other members of your group, and I said that we would take the matter off the table. And I think there may have been some poor communication that transpired between our end and the Committee for Governance and Operations and your end, and I apologize for that. I really do. The only intent that I understood was the desire to expand the number of spaces allotted to you, and as far as I understood, those were the terms that we were trying to establish with you. And I do believe, according to our conversation, that if there are further applicants that agree to follow your guidelines set by your board, that you would be willing to put them into the market. The only other consideration that the council will need to think of is how to guarantee that those spaces aren't encroached upon by parked cars. So I think that's something we can work out. But what I'll do is I'll just defer the rest of this conversation to the discussion when the resolution comes up.
Thank you for your time.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What are the guidelines that proposed new members do not wish to follow? Like you said, one applied and did not sign the agreement because they didn't like your guidelines.
Yeah, well, that individual, the biggest part of they have what they call a CSA, which means somebody can come pick up a box of produce at 8 o'clock in the morning when our market opens at 9 o'clock and not participate. That customer doesn't participate in our market. And that's always been one of the drawbacks for them coming in. They've always been offered an application. They just chose not to apply in other times. So, and the applications were applied to the board, I think 2 weeks ago, in terms of those guidelines.
But to understand you clearly, the term that they did not want to cooperate with was that they could not conduct business of their CSA during market hours.
Yeah, that's one of the agreements that they, but right now that individual hasn't signed any of the agreement for that.
Yeah, you had mentioned there was an incomplete application.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other individuals like to come and speak to the council on issues on the agenda tonight? There will be another comment period at the end of the meeting as well for other issues. Seeing none, let's continue, please.
Motion to remove item 7A from the table.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Dowdle. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Dowdle?
Yes.
Councilor Ensel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves the Plattsburgh Farmers and Crafters Market Group to manage the farmers market for the 2018 market season from May 12th through October 6th, 2018. Signed license agreement fee and insurance proof is required.
Discussion? Councilor Kelly.
Mr. Crawford was kind enough to come to my house one day a couple of weeks ago, and I made the comment that in that meeting prior to that they seem like an exclusive club, and they don't like to take new members. And I have to apologize to you, all of you, for saying that, because in my meeting with Mr. Crawford, he reassured me that you are in fact an inclusive group of people, and that you are welcoming to almost anyone who wants to come to the farmers market, as long as they follow your guidelines. So I apologize. And also, Mr. Crawford said he's not opposed to CSAs, that he thinks they're okay. He just doesn't want them conducting business, in the farmers market. And he even went so far to say if a CSA set up shop on the grassy area at the edge of the parking lot, he would be okay with that. So, thank you for all the clarifications, Mr. Crawford. I really appreciate it.
And I would like to just once again apologize for the lengthy, this has just been dragged out way, way too long. And I know that is a burden to you. For the purposes of planning, you need to get on with whatever you're gonna bring to the market. So once again, I do apologize. I'm just wondering though, you do seem amenable to the idea that we could expand. So I don't know if we need to include any language about agreement to expand, or, as vendors come forward expressing interest. I think originally in the committee, we had discussed the possibility of extending to the end, that row that comes out from your market to where the grassy plot begins. And do we need to specify that that's part of what we're willing to offer them?
Apologize, I don't have that agreement in front of me, so I can't speak
Yeah.
chapter and
Well,
verse
I mean,
to the
it
language.
wasn't-
If there's no limitation in that agreement itself, then no, you'd be authorized to sign.
All
It's
right.
be a matter of question of, do you want to
Okay.
designate and prohibit people from parking to allow for that expansion?
Right.
And if
So
that's the
that
case,
can
you don't-
take place outside
That's
of the
outside
passage
agreement.
of this
So
resolution.
I'd have to double check the agreement. If there is that prohibition, you could approve the resolution subject to making that change to the agreement.
That's very similar to what we did in September when they had their.
We gave them more spaces
space,
for
right.
the
Right, so I think
festival.
we could just,
Yes.
we could just
So
do
we'll
it when
just
it
do
comes
that.
up. when it
All
comes
right.
up.
Sounds good to me.
And that's
Let's
what-
get on with it.
That's what Josh was talking about, the last committee meeting, expanding the farmer's market to the end.
That's right. That was the, original purpose of postponing the approval. But now it all seems fruitless, so. Apologies again.
Any further discussion?
I'd just like to express my thanks for you keep coming back and facing challenges. And, others have tried to sell produce in front of the co-op, across from the co-op, in front of the county building, downtown Rising. We offered them the corner lot. They went to the Strand. None of that seemed to work because they don't keep coming back. So if they're making money, they keep coming back. You guys keep coming back. You've been here for how many years? 30? So you must be doing something right. So I'd just like to extend my thank you for that.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves building inspector to refund $40 to Omar Ruda for building permit application 3219 because his project canceled and applied for a different building permit.
Moved by Counselor Ansel, second by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves Director of Community Development to advertise for bids in response to the request for proposals for economic development consultant downtown revitalization initiative, Dock Street waterfront.
Moved by Counselor Armstrong, second by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves Director of Community Development to advertise for bids in response to the request for proposals for economic development consultant, downtown revitalization initiative, Derby Street.
Moved by Counselor McFarland, second by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves the city chamber to create capital project H5110.64 2018 equipment purchase for the acquisition of a heavy-duty plow truck for public works.
Moved by Counselor Ensel, second by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion.
How many plow trucks right now does Public Works have?
Our fleet consists of 6 frontline trucks and 2 backups. The 2 backups we have are over 20 years old, and one of the frontline trucks is 18. Typical life of a plow truck is 14 for DOT is on the high end, 8 years is usually what they term that. So the 2 that we're looking, the one we're actually looking to replace, it's a monobody designed with a side dump internally, and basically the whole body is rotted away, so.
Right.
And you might be asking why they're buying a truck in March. It takes quite a while to outfit these trucks.
Right, and this was provision that we already
It was in the
approved on in the
capital
capital.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the Council approves Ed Garrow and Sons on behalf of the Canadian Pacific Railway to close Lorraine Street between Miller Street and Saley Avenue for signal upgrades. The anticipated road closure is requested for approximately 1 week, beginning March 26, 2018, and ending on March 29, 2018. CP Rail is expecting that the roadway will be closed only during daytime hours.
Moved by Councillor Kelly and second by Councillor Ansel. Discussion?
What kind of upgrades are they doing to the signal?
They, their signal cabinet currently sits on the northwest corner of the intersection of the railway and the road, and it's pretty close to the tracks. So beside it being old, it hinders any bus traffic or any big vehicle traffic from being able to stop before the railway and verify that there's not a train coming from the north. So they're going to take it and push the signal back a little bit.
Does it make the signal safer?
I believe they're upgrading the signal as well, so yes.
Because I was speaking with Councillor Casper before, and she indicated that there could be issues where the train could be quieter going through there with the alarm sounding when it crosses the street if the signals were upgraded to a higher safety level. Would this new crossing there on Lorraine Street, would that meet those criteria?
I'm unaware of that.
Would you be able to look into that on our
I could,
behalf?
yeah, got something wrong.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves Ed Garrow and Sons on behalf of the Canadian Pacific Railway to close Riley Avenue between Margaret Street and Hyde Avenue for signal upgrades. The anticipated road closure is requested for approximately 1 week, beginning April 2nd, 2018, and ending on April 6, 2018. CP Rail is expecting that the roadway will be closed only during daytime hours.
Moved by Councillor Armstrong, second by Councillor Dowdle. Discussion? You can ask the question again if you like.
Yeah, well, I'm interested in the same one, but I imagine they're doing the exact same.
Yeah,
upgrade
same
there.
situation, another cabinet, but on the southwest intersection of the railroad and Riley Avenue.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see if they can meet those qualifications to perhaps alleviate some of the noise of the train going through that district.
Yeah, I'll talk to them tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thank you. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves 1 police department employee to attend crime scene training and crime scene photography training from April 23rd through 27th, 2018, April 30th through May 4th, 2018, and May 7th through 11th, 2018 in Albany, New York. The total cost should not exceed $2,842.75 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund. This will complete the evidence lab training for this officer.
Moved by Councillor Ansel, second by Councillor McFarland. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? New business or additional council reports? Please, Councillor Dowdle.
I'd just like to ask, as of last week, new business, part of it became the Crate Center. In our 2017 capital budget plan, we had $100,000 scheduled for the Crate Center roof that was taken out. We also had 20,000 last year for the new floor. The 18 plan calls for 50,000 for concrete floor. Was the 100,000 that was taken out, was that obviously not to repair it? Was that for a study of sorts to examine the roof repair?
I'm not sure of that, but I think that might have something to do with it. Okay.
So are we going to be plugging that 100,000 back in to have to have a professional review?
We're doing a repair right now, so we're gonna repair what we can and then have to watch it, and then maybe have a professional come in and let us know.
Any estimate on the repair?
$4,000.
So I'm wondering what the 100,000 was for. That was in the 2017 capital budget 5-year plan for this year. 100,000 was taken out, but.
No, that was the prior.
And were there concrete floor repairs last year of $20,000 done? Because it's 50,000 for 2018. That is in the 5-year plan for this year. Where's all this money go?
Okay, we need to clarify
Okay,
this.
yeah, we need to get some clarification. Okay. Because I know there was roof and hot water repairs of 50,000 that was taken out. Flood repair damage of 152,000. The folding chairs, I think we took out at the gym. And the community room improvements.
Community room
Okay.
improvements, they didn't do those.
Nope, they did buy the chairs.
They did buy the chairs.
Okay, the crate event floor, is that the crate center or the?
Yes, that's the event laydown floor that we put down actually today.
Okay, was that that's the $50,000 then, I would think?
There was a portion that was purchased, I don't know if that's, we have a newer set, probably about a third of the floor is new.
But the 100,000, I just don't know if that would have been a repair or if that was gonna be an engineering inspection or.
We're just getting a handle on the crate.
Okay.
We're wrapping our arms around it. We'll let you know if I can find out.
That may have been an initial estimate to do the roof, and then the estimate we got was different from that. So maybe they took that out based off that information.
So that's like maybe a $96,000 difference? It doesn't, I don't know. Well, if you wrap your arms around it, wrap them tight, all right? Okay.
I don't know,
All right.
it might have had something to do with the heating units on the roof that were on the roof. I don't know. I have to look at that.
So you're asking for a complete accounting of what was budgeted, what was spent,
Well,
how the
100,000,
adjustments were made?
where was that gonna go? It was scheduled for this year and it was taken out last year, so.
What I might suggest is, given that the person who prepared that capital budget has passed that budget now on to you all, let's do a reassessment for where we are, let you all also, you're gonna end up taking off some items and probably adding one major item is a roof replacement that this council is gonna have to figure out, come to terms of what to do. But how about we do some research and so you can kind of figure out what's left, what's been done, what still needs to be done, and I know you're working on your best estimate for the roof repair at this time.
Because it looks as though by the end of this year, we'll have $70,000 into floor repairs. 20 last year and 50 this year.
We
Well,
have a schedule for buying a floor.
Okay.
And then
Repairs, they're called repairs on
the
this.
ultimate question is long-term planning for the creek, I think. And I mean, I
Well,
know you agree.
I mean, looks like it was charted out as such, but it was just taken away. All right, yeah, some sort of update would be helpful.
Thank you very much.
And as you know, with that transition, this team has assigned a dedicated crew, some of the existing people, but also you're adding more supervision as well to improve that place. I know it's been recently reported that the crate center is in disrepair. I think that's something that I disagree with. I think you're all making an incredible effort to improve on the crate center maintenance, and I think the individuals, Justin Gordon and Sandra Geddes, Ted Santinelli and Scott Dubray are also working and really coming together and working as a team to market and fill and make sure that facility is used as best it can. Obviously, and I've said this publicly, we'll obviously work with any partners in the broader community of Clinton County that is willing to help us out on this, but we take this as our responsibility. We're working hard to provide the best facilities possible, and you know, it's a challenge. For probably 2 decades, we've seen that there's some underlying issues there, like the roof that needs to be repaired, and we take that very seriously. We don't want that facility to depreciate, so I'm sure we'll be hearing much more conversation from you as you get your hands completely wrapped around that.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we anticipate conversation from other municipalities, say the county, the town? You know,
I've had informal discussions with county representatives, and they've shown a desire to help us. I think we need to articulate what we need to have done, but we assert that this is a city asset that's very valuable to our community. Nonetheless, we still appreciate any help anybody could offer in delivering something that we actually believe services the county even to a greater degree than the city residents, if we look at actual numbers of users in it. But I think all city residents are very grateful this facility exists.
Why don't some of the council members come on out to the Gray Center sometime, we'll give you a little tour. Okay?
Thank
you.
Sorry what some of the issues are?
I'm usually out there 3 nights a week, and I can see them. But I'm sure you could point out some that I'm
Okay.
Thanks for that.
more trained eye, I'll take it. Okay.
Thank you. Any other new business? I have one. Carol Garcia will be retiring soon from us, and she's given us wonderful service for decades. I really appreciate all your service. I hope you keep coming to our meetings, even though you're no longer going to be required to. And
Be careful what you wish for.
and to let you know, I have
She
asked
can come as a
Carol.
citizen now.
I might see you right up there. Imagine that. Thank you, Mayor.
And I have asked Carol if there's any way she could ever come and help us out in the future in any capacity. We'd love to have you back. You're such a wealth of knowledge with regard to our previous incarnation of the Community Development Office and all the various grants that help beautify Main Street, our Main Street grants at City Hall Place in the 1990s and 2000s, and your experience and help is greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Any other new business and council reports? This is now an opportunity for the public to please come and address the council on any issue of mutual concern.
Sue Moore, city resident. After speaking with several residents since last week's meeting regarding cryptocurrency mining, I wanted to share with the council some of their and my concerns. At the forefront of these concerns is the economic impact that these operations can affect on the community of uninvolved citizens. Although there is a disparity in size between the current crypto farms in Plattsburgh, collectively they accounted for over 10% of the city's power consumption. With the current crypto farms already planning expansions, the city's energy shortfall is guaranteed to go up over time. As everyone here is aware, the overages incurred by this dramatic spike in consumption are passed on to all citizens, effectively subsidizing the crypto farms at the residents' expense. Repeatedly, we heard that this draw on the city's resources would be counterbalanced by the benefit of drawing in this new industry. We have heard, excuse me, I got sinuses. We have heard the major corporations interested in blockchain technology are hungrily eyeing Plattsburgh as a new Silicon Valley. There is little evidence of this, and any company currently interested in studying how to incorporate and implement blockchain tech is doing so comfortably on their own corporate campuses. There is little need for them to relocate. Crypto farms are end users, utilizing large pre-manufactured parts to run almost entirely automated programs to convert electricity into cryptocurrency. They require few employees and little maintenance, returning almost nothing back to the community they siphon power from. Because Plattsburgh's power utility is municipal, the city will not turn a profit on the increased power consumption as the billing is currently assessed. The tax code for these businesses is still currently nebulous, meaning the profits from cryptocurrency is uncertain and unreliable, and the farms currently in Plattsburgh are delivering their profits largely to outside investors who will not be paying taxes into the city under any circumstance. Whether we attract 10 crypto farms or 50, the result will not benefit Plattsburgh in any tangible way. Instead, it will grievously impact local employers like Moldrite Plastics, whom we heard from at the last meeting. Employing nearly 500 people, this business utilized less power than a business that currently employs 3. We are looking at a scale of consumption that is unprecedented, and we have absolutely no guarantee that lenient regulations will induce them to treat Plattsburgh as anything other than a resource waiting to be used up. Plattsburgh incurs the risk while holding no stake in any potential reward. Recently, the publication Motherboard ran an article about crypto farms, and our case specifically, and I would like to read an excerpt that clarifies the current situation for the city. Quote, typically, cities welcome large investments from tech companies because the promise of job creation and investment in the local economy. But the heavily automated nature of cryptocurrency mining means that a large operation can use a significant amount of a municipality's power, generate little or nothing in tax revenue, and create a negligible number of jobs. Plattsburgh's government is suffering through a budget crisis that, perhaps with a different set of policies, the influx of mining investment could help solve. But currently, cryptocurrency investors from around the world are using Plattsburgh's cheap electricity to get rich and are being subsidized by the city's residents to do so, end quote. There has been a lot of pressure from the crypto industry to reduce the duration of the moratorium from 18 months. This excerpt underscores the need to tread carefully. Simply allowing these operations to move in as things currently stand will not remedy the city's budgetary problems, it will not improve Plattsburgh as a hotbed for innovative technology, and it will not improve the current situation for the residents of the city. There has been an intimation that Plattsburgh will be perceived as as backwater or afraid of new technology if we wait to open the door to cryptocurrency. It is important to not allow the fear of being perceived this way to influence your readiness to consent. The foolhardiness thing that could be done is to make an impulsive decision that can't be walked back. Remember, once these businesses are here and established, curbing their growth is next to impossible. Careful planning and establishment of fair guidelines for these enterprises is the only thing that will safeguard the integrity of the city, so that this is most certainly not a time to throw caution to the wind. Recently, the crypto farming community has offered to hold roundtable discussions for the council. This type of discussion has the potential to be very productive, and it's heartening to know that they are willing to participate in the local governance. However, these should not be private sessions in which the industry is able to petition directly to the council uninhibited. If discussions of the matter are to take place, I encourage the council to consider allowing either public participation or informed opinions on both sides to present cases. Now is the time to seriously consider the role that we want this untested industry to play in the city. The council must decide how much of Plattsburgh's future must be rewritten for the sake of courting these businesses, and how much of that burden must be passed on to the citizens whom this council has a duty to protect. Do not allow yourselves to be blinded by vague promises of nebulous wealth and interest from corporate America. The citizens of our city, your city, are depending upon you to make decisions that are in their interest. I trust that you are all up to the task. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individuals, please come forward.
Got my notes. My name is Andrew Gold. I'm a resident of the city. I was just reading here, and I heard on North Country Public Radio, NCPR, that Messina has stopped any future Bitcoins they may have existing. I read the article very quickly. Now, Messina had an Alcoa aluminum plant that manufactured engine blocks and such for General Motors, and the plant is empty or basically empty. So they've got an abundance of electricity. Nevertheless, I don't know the details. I just want to bring it to your attention that Messina has either put a moratorium or said no. The same thing with Rouse's Point. Now, they also have cheap electricity, probably to a much smaller extent, but maybe we could, the city council or whoever's in charge of the roundtable, that I hope we have in the near future, can inquire as to what facts they have as to why they're stopping this too. And it's, as this other resident said, that we don't want to become a backwater, but we don't want people to turn our electricity into their money. We all know that very well. It just needs to be emphasized that we need to dig for the right direction to capture a corporation that's going to bring jobs and not someone that's just going to milk us and run our electric bills up. So the only two cities I know of, or towns, are Rouse's Point and Messina. There may be others in New York. I'm not sure what amounts of electricity they've allotted now. Is there a way that we can stop? I don't know if the council is allowed to address this personally with me, but is there a way we can stop any future growth for the two permitted businesses now? Or can they just keep on building, or do they use up a certain allotment of their electricity? And I'll leave that to if you want to answer publicly.
From my understanding, they've been approved for a certain capacity now. To expand, they would require an additional permit. And we are, over the next few weeks, assembling as many technical experts we can truly understand this and figure out how to proceed. The first dimension, as you saw last week, for us is to ensure that all of this is done in a healthy and safe manner. And that's going to be our #1 priority. At the same time, we're working on exploring our legal latitude with regard to tariffs. You saw the same day we came out with a moratorium last week. Because of the great work from Bill Tracy and his association, they had managed to convince the Public Service Commission in what I think must be almost record speed to also assist us, and they share our concerns. And we're still trying to understand the ramifications of that, but we expect that will be another tool that will help us.
So, they have already issued the order. I've read through it. Basically, what they've come up with is a plan which will protect the ratepayers, where we buy supplemental power and spread the cost across everybody. When we buy supplemental in the future, starting after the 1st of April, we will calculate the PPAC, which is Purchase Power Adjustment Charge, without the Bitcoin operation, the two big ones, in there, as if they don't even exist. We will then calculate the second PPAC, which will be strictly for the Bitcoin operations, which they will pay a lot larger amount. And where it was being spread across, the biggest chunk of the money is going to be spread over that's only during months when we have to buy supplemental power, which is during the winter months primarily. The rest of the year, when we don't have to buy supplemental power, they will be charged the same PPAC as everybody in the city. But the Public Service Commission has given me spreadsheets and everything, how to calculate this out. And I have to provide the calculations at the end of the month when we're doing this. And they believe that will protect the ratepayers, that they will not have to pay shared costs for these guys.
So that
will take care of only the two big ones. Now, if there's little ones around town, which we know they are not figured into this. But the two big ones, which is the same company at two different locations, yes, they were identified. The attorneys for the New York Municipal Power Agency are preparing a letter that the Public Service Commission required be sent to these two to tell them they will be paying higher rates in the future, or a higher PPAC. The tariff itself doesn't change, but what they're calling it is they've added a rider A to it for these two outfits.
And if I recall from what I read on the commentary on last Friday, was that any additional infrastructure improvements that you're required to do, they will have to pay for in advance to ensure that the ratepayers are also protected there.
Well, I've been doing that anyhow, so, but there's a little caption there too, and I'll explain that to you later. But yes, that's in there. Plus, get 2 months of their highest bills to keep on file in case they decide to disappear in the middle of the night. Well, I've already taken care of that. The Public Service Commission has codified that.
Excellent work. Thank you very much.
Security deposit?
Security deposit. It will sit there. Just in case, because the Public Service Commission did believe they're highly mobile, they can disappear.
That's what I mentioned last week.
They've been known in other communities.
They can pack up.
If things change and they find somewhere cheaper to go, they can disappear in the middle of the night easily.
How many square feet do they occupy, these two operations, approximately?
One location is 2,000 square feet, the other is 42,000 square feet.
42,000, that's half the size. Walmart's 115, 110,000?
Yeah, it's probably about half that, yeah, that's what it's area.
42,000.
Yeah, you can pack quite a little number of servers in
That's a
there.
big grocery store.
Mhm.
Just relative, and need to know.
And I'm just grateful, I expressed this to the council earlier today, just that, you know, this is a very fast-moving industry, and I think if we waited much longer, our avenues to protect the ratepayers would have been much smaller. So I'm very grateful for all your work and Dean's work and your work through the association to ensure that we're protecting the ratepayers. But obviously, it just doesn't stop now. We still have to be vigilant on rolling out industry of the future to make sure that those ratepayers continue to be protected and maintain the capacity for our...
Council's on the ball. People that aren't here and don't want to read the local newspaper don't know what's going on. But there's something happening, and the newspaper's on top of it. I appreciate that. I read it every morning. You know that.
And there's
been... You know I repeat it, because if I see a mistake, I'm on it. Or an article that disappears.
Interestingly enough, when we kind of live in our own fishbowl, this has got the intention of the entire world. There's been well over 100 articles written about this, because this is a concern that many communities with access to low power are now having. So this council is really leading the way, and this municipal lighting division is really leading the way in protecting ratepayers.
And that's why I brought to the attention, in case you just haven't heard it. I listen to the radio. I work for myself. I've got a little radio, and I listen to various public radio stations.
No, actually, what happened up there, actually, Messina wanted it.
They did. They invited them.
Well, yeah, because they believed they would create, they promised to create 150 jobs.
Exactly.
Didn't say how that was going to happen, but what has happened up there, because of what the Public Service Commission did last Thursday, they were getting power from the New York Power Authority through a special allotment arrangement. I've been told the Power Authority put a moratorium on that power, and is researching it with the Public Service Commission as how they're going to proceed with that. Because
to keep the moratorium in place?
Keep their moratorium, because that's how they were taking power from a bank for St. Lawrence, Jefferson, and Franklin counties that was supposed to create jobs in those areas, power for jobs. And that's where they were pulling the power from. Well, when the Public Service Commission came out with their report Thursday, the New York Power Authority decided to put a halt onto that and put their own moratorium in. So.
Mr. Mayor, could further discussion be in the MLD meeting?
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Any other public comments tonight?
I had something else in my mind, but I think you get carried away with this.
I bet you'll have it next week still, though, won't you?
You got
it. Seeing none, there will be a short meeting of the MLD to discuss an issue just following this meeting. So do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Dowdle. Roll call.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Dowdle?
Yes.
Councilor Ensel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Would it be untoward, would it be bad for me to have this?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, so much for your patience.